Hello, fellow gamers. This is Brandon Volpe doing another video for the game Cold Comfort. This is the first environment that I did for the game. It's kind of like the art test that I did to get on the team. And this is just a small Unreal scene that is based on the map for the prison corridor. And these are just some camera shots of the final renders that I did. And this will be more polished into a fully finished product later on. But I just want to show a little bit how I made it, what the steps I took, and and some more about this. Uh, if we just jump in game here, this decal here, the restricted area decal is just a decal on the wall, and then this guy is just a for scale. Here's this box that it should have the logo of the pretend company in the game on here, but I guess that didn't get done. Uh, and then the door is the most so far in this scene is the most finished asset uh, or the most detailed one. I kind of focused on that because that's where the kind of the character was. Let me bring up the concept art here, and then you got this part here with the fencing and the rafters and some pipes up here, and all these are modular. So it's a corridor that is a restricted area. Um, yeah, let me show you how close I got to the concept art. Um, Let me just pause this and find the concept. Okay, so this is the concept art in Photoshop here, and obviously like the rat and the fire extinguisher and the bodies and the all this other stuff did not get done. There's that logo there of the company, um, and this concept art was done by uh, forget the artist name, but he signed it there. I'll put that on the description below. Um, so, so yeah, the door, I kind of focused the box and the door as the main objects in the scene because the rest is just walls, and then, up here is a mess of wires and pipes. But it's a pretty cool piece of concept art. So this is what I was kind of given to make this environment out of. And Yeah. So let me go into a little bit further on how I made this, what the parts are, and kind of explain what how it was built. What I like to do first is make block out meshes. Um, Now these are just really simple. Like this fire extinguisher is just a rectangular block, just to get the size right. And then later I'll go in there and model the asset. Um, this is the first column that I made up. It was just a simple block to get the right size for the um, the modularity of the thing. So these are just block out meshes. Then I went further and made the actual meshes. So here's the metal stand. Um, Now this is not UV'd or anything, but that's that. And then the fencing, um, got that. And I think this is just a plane with a transparency map applied to it. Yeah, here's the material here. Um, if it updates, let's see. Mm, okay, there it goes. Yeah. So it's just a simple texture map with an alpha um, map. I don't know why I couldn't have used this one. I wonder why I used a separate texture one, texture sample. Yeah, I could have just used the one. So let's save that and go back. Let's see. So yeah, it's kind of weird that I used two, but so then if we go into the meshes again, here's the metal crate. Pretty simple object. Now this is fully UV'd. Uh, it's not fully textured yet because we're missing the details here, but and then the door is what I spent a lot of time, most of the time on, just because it was going to be the focal attention, and it has no backsides. You can see there's a little stuff going on here that probably shouldn't be there, but the wall is there covering that up. Um, so I got these scratches on here and these little details of the bottom, and then these hardened boxed out windows. If I go to that material, it's a material instance, so I have to go to the actual material. It's right here. This is just a basic RMA material where you have your color, which is here is just a simple PNG, and then you have your RMA texture, which is your roughness, your metalness, and your ambient occlusion, and then your normal. And then I added adjustment for the roughness for both the roughness and the metallic. Uh, Here's an adjustment for the metallicness. Um, just because it wasn't quite showing up the way I wanted it, so I added these parameters here, and then added the maps in the material instance up here. You got your color, normal, and RMA. And I can go into Quixel and show you how I did that. How do we do that right now? Yeah. So I'm gonna open up Photoshop, already open, and then I'm gonna go find my props folder. It's on the other screen here. Metal doors, and then Quixel. Let's see, so copy that. Okay, let's open up Quixel here, and I'll kind of show you how I made it and what kind of steps I took to make it. Okay, so Quixel's here. So let's open up Dedo. And those of you not familiar with Quixel, it's a texturing. I guess it's a program, but it's inside Photoshop, but it's a script that runs inside Photoshop that's very it's great. It's a awesome program in itself, um, but it runs right inside Photoshop. So and then I'm just opening the project, loading it, um, and it's just gotta think about it for a second here. And yeah, so it's got a great previewer, so you can preview what the textures look like, and it's a PBR workflow. So um, here's where those marks are coming up before. So I open up 3Do, which is just kind of a 3D preview window of what your texture is going to look on either a box or a sphere or the actual geometry that you import. It does take a while to kind of load, but once it loads, it's very refreshing right now. But it's very useful to see it in real time. It's almost like a game engine inside of Photoshop, um, which I'm not sure uh, has been how long it's been around for, but it's kind of cool. and it makes all these layers by itself automatically. That's what the loading time does. So this is what it looks like inside 3D. Now it's a bit brown right now. I think that's just because you can have several different like HDRIs to change the look of it based on whatever engine you're using or whatnot. So I usually go to Unreal 4 or the second one, which is kind of more of what it's going to look like in Unreal. That's kind of what it looked like in Unreal. I mean, the lighting was a little bit darker, but that's about right. And you can also throw a headlight on it, which kind of lights it up a little bit. It's kind of like a headlight. And then if you want to see the different shades and stuff, you can put the light spin on, and that'll actually move the light around 360 degrees. So you can see different shadows or different ways it looks in the light. And this particular example doesn't really show much difference, but it's very useful when you're setting up your materials. So I'm just going to slide this over, and here we have our normal and our metalness. Um, so how I created the normal here was in Maya. I did a high poly sculpt and then baked it with Mighty Bake, and then made the normal texture. And basically all you need to start a project is a normal, an ambient occlusion, and an ID map. So let me go into Maya here, and this is what the scene's made out of, just these little couple objects. Um, this wall takes care of the whole wall, and then you just copy it over, and it's all snapped to the grid. So it's nice modularity. So let's open the door low poly. So this is the low poly that's UV'd, and that was pretty simple to make. Now the high poly one was a little bit more involved. Um, Not sure what I made first. I think I made like a mid poly, and then I transformed it down to a low poly, and then added detail in the high poly. I always kind of take it on each object of how if I'm gonna make the high poly first or low poly, or I kind of just it depends on the object. Um, so I added this dent here, which really isn't doing much, but um, it's good to make your high poly as much detail as possible because that's where the texture comes from. And then the windows here, these or these blacked out windows, you may say, um, it doesn't really matter what they look like because or the geometry because you're just baking it in to the low poly. So that was how I made that, and you'll never see these over here um, normally when you bake it because those are all cut off. But it looks like they did transform over here based on my texture, so that needs to be fixed, of course. Um, but I was just dealing with so many tries here that when I tried to boolean it and cut it, it just was not working well. But I realize now that this is causing a problem based on that little texture thing that we saw both in Unreal and then in Quixel. Um, but I think I'll start closing the video down now here. But I would like to show you my workflow for Mighty Bake when I bake these objects out and stuff. But I guess that's for another time. But I just want to kind of show the objects that make up the scene, and it's basically just this wall, the floor, the door, the oh, where'd the box go? So we've got the crate, metal crate. It's the low poly, and the UVs for that are in here. I basically made the UVs as simple as possible. So I actually left the box UV almost intact from the original, the way Maya unwraps it when you create a box. And then I just added and these are a little bit out of scale. These are the areas here. But I wanted more definition on that area so that the text didn't look all pixelated and whatnot. And then the high poly, I turn that on. It's quite more geometry, and that's where all the detail comes from. Um, and these colors are just to distinguish it from the other parts. And that also makes the matte ID, which I could show you here on the other screen, my bakes. So these are the bakes that came out of Mighty Bake. You have the ambient occlusion, 2 different ones of those, and then the ID map is mostly this one, and then I had to do some cleanup in Photoshop to kind of get rid of these areas that are kind of messed up. These might have been my first bakes. I usually make a test bake and then do it again. But that's where, oh, this is for the door. Let's go to the metal crate. I'll show you that, since those are the colors we were dealing with. So, bakes. So, this is the ID map here. And I didn't actually use this one because it's obviously got a lot of problems, but the normal is a combination between tangent normals and surface normals. So you get better details in some areas and better details on the edges in these other ones. So I kind of combine them. And what I do is I'll go into more depth of this in another tutorial. But if I bring up my, let's see, it's going to be textures. These are the final textures. So this is the RMA, the roughness, metallic, and ambient occlusion baked into one map. You have your normal, which is a lot more cleaned up than the bakes, and then color map. So I usually keep a PSD of oh, here it is. Okay. So if you look at my PSD, my layer stack, I have them all separated into folders. And this I learned from a class online that I took with Clinton Crumpler, modular environments with CGMA. That was it was a great class. I learned a lot, and I used a lot of what I learned there in my project. So a lot about organization, a lot about you know, workflows and things like that. So you can see these are all cleaned up. You know, they're solid colors. They're, like the bakes were all kind of messed up, and you just kind of do clean up work in Photoshop. Then you import these into Quixel, and then you just need a mesh, a material ID, and a normal. And then if you want an ambient occlusion, it kind of helps with the texture baking process. And then that's how you get the final maps of the roughness, metallic, ambient occlusion, normal, and albedo. So, all right, well that about covers it for this video. So I'll see you on the next one.